Hey friends, today I'm gardening with Creekside. We are going to spend some time in the shade garden and we are going to clean things up and put this bed, this flower bed to bed for winter. That's right, I had to think there. I was like, I just said bed, what am I talking about? Yes, we are in this little narrow strip of a shade garden right along the side of our house. Obviously the driveway's behind us. Have tons and tons of perennials in here that have already been zapped by a really nice hard freeze. We got down to 25 degrees one night and then we were in the low 30s for several nights. Everything has been zapped. I can come in here and clean up and really kind of be the last time I touch this flower bed for several months. So what exactly are we going to do today and where are we and all the good things that we want to know? We do have this shade flower bed right along the side of our house, and it is a shade bed because of the house. The sun sets directly right here, so this flower bed gets great morning sun and then it gets beautiful shade, as you can see from the shadows in the afternoon, both winter and summer. Winter, it gets more shade. We're going to talk about why that could be a problem for me in a little bit. In the springtime, early summer, this bed is full and lush and absolutely stunning. Mid to late November, yeah, it looks a little sad. It is going to look so much better when we get done. What are we going to do in here? Well, first of all, we're going to address winter weeds. So weeding is always an issue here in the South. We're constantly weeding. These are my winter weeds. You know, you have weeds of all seasons. So now I get to battle the winter weeds. My hostas, which are just glorious and lush, you know, during those spring, summer months, are completely dead as far as the foliage. Now remember, hostas, their foliage will get completely burned, but their roots are still alive. They're extremely cold hardy. I never have to worry about my hostas dying in the wintertime. They just come back bigger and better every single year. This is going to be super easy to clean up. All that foliage will just pull right out and it will be great. Aurelia Sun King, there's two of them. They too completely fried. We're going to cut them to the ground and clean them all the way up. Remember how I said that this gets a lot of winter shade and that can be a problem for me? You were with me when we planted this hay rack right here. This is the window that is right above where my kitchen sink is. So I spend a ton of time right here. I planted this, maybe a month ago, and we have some Swiss chard in there. We've got mustard and we've got trailing pansies. And I told you when I planted it that I barely get any sun in this bed in the wintertime. And if anybody's gonna have good sun, it would be that spot. Do you see how pathetic that thing is? I mean, it's just pitiful. It's like literally just like wasting away. And it is not because of lack of water. It is not because of, you know, lack of taking care of or good soil. The plants are not the problem. I just don't get enough sun. I don't know if I'm going to clean this up now. I don't know. We will see when the mood strikes, and if I do clean it up, if I don't clean it up on this time, then we're going to be decorating for Christmas and the New Year here very soon within the next couple of days, because November is like flying by. So at that point, then in here what I do is I put greenery. So I'll go out and forage in the woods and I'll get like magnolias, I'll get holly limbs, I'll get cryptomeria limbs, and I just kind of decorate it that way. It's not actually planted, it's just that there's a lot of greenery in there. So that is a problem, and this is why I just don't even try to put pansies and violas in the other big hay rack that is right here. Those are two mums and an evergreen that are faux planted, because I know they just do not get enough sun. So we'll address that, but just I'm all about messes and successes. Well, that's a mess right there. All right, moving on down. What we do is also we have some annuals in here. This was Broralia. Clearly the annuals are all done. My Lenten roses, my hellebores, I'm not going to clean them up right now. I'm going to leave them and I will come back and address them probably like around January. And when you do that, you're just going to clean up those outer older foliage that dies away. For now, we're just going to leave it, make sure the leaves are out. Obviously, I had another hosta here. I had a double impatient. It's all melted. Just really need to get this area cleaned up. along with perennial ferns that were nice and tall and are completely fried back. I personally have found that my Lamian looks better in the cooler season than it does in the heat of the summer. This is Pink Chablis from Proven Winners. We sell it as an annual, but it's technically a perennial for us. It will fill in and just fill this whole area right here. This is some dieback from the summer when it was just hot. So we're just gonna leave it. It's a great ground cover, and we're just gonna leave it alone, get the weeds out, of course, because there's tons of weeds in here, and just let those go. My white by the gate camellia, we're just gonna keep this baby watered because it's not raining anytime soon. This is a japonica. Remember, we talk about the difference between a sasanqua and a japonica is the way you can tell is by their leaf. See how much fatter a japonica is than like my thumb? This means that this will bloom in late winter, early spring. White by the gate is a nice, beautiful, formal, double, pure white flower, and it's got lots of buds on this plant, so I cannot wait to see this grow and develop and be in bloom. We have Solomon Seal. Solomon Seal is another wonderful shade perennial. It'll literally just come right out of the ground. We have more Broalia, that'll come out. And then I think I'm gonna go ahead probably and trim my white wedding hydrangea. The reason that I'm gonna go ahead and trim it is it's a panicle. It blooms on new growth. I am completely safe to go ahead and prune that. It is not going to affect next year's blooms at all. In fact, it's gonna make a stronger, sturdier plant. I'm gonna go ahead and prune it because I'm just gonna be in this bed now, and we're gonna do what we can right now, because if you remember, if you've been with us for the past couple of weeks, we've talked about how our Alyssa is one of our employees here at Creekside. She is like a daughter to Jerry and I, and she is getting married here at the end of May. We're gonna have a ton of work to do. So if I'm in a bed and I can get some stuff done that's less work that I have to do later on in the season, then that's what we're going to do. What I'm gonna do is just set the camera up, and I think what I'll do is just kind of walk you through. If it's pretty basic and doesn't need explanation, then I'll probably just go ahead and do it. But if I feel like there's a teachable moment, then I will stop and just get you caught up on what exactly it is that we're doing. But cleaning up your flower beds in fall is very, very important. We're going to talk about more of that in just a little bit. But first, I'm going to get the grunt work done and get this flower bed cleaned up. All right, my friends, so the cleanup portion of today's bed is essentially done. You can tell Brenda likes to sit in the nice, cool, wet, moist. Come on, there we go. She likes to sit in the flower bed right now. But the hardest part about this whole job was getting the weeds out. Everything else just cleaned up beautifully and was super easy to do. Basically, the hostas, the ferns, well, no, not the ferns, the hostas, the Solomon seal, the annuals, of course, it just like literally just the foliage just came off into my hands. The ferns I did have to cut. They were completely, had died back, but they were just still kind of hanging on a little bit. So I just cleaned those up. I showed you, we'll see if the camera picked it up, but a little tree sapling that was in here. I actually had two. It was interesting, this spring, it seemed like as a general whole, we had a ton of seedlings everywhere. Whether we had lots of maples, we had poplars, that was what was in here, was a poplar. If you find little tree seedlings in your flower beds, take them out. Unless you can envision a full-size tree where that little seedling is, take it out ASAP. If it is an evergreen, like we have pines and cedars, there was a little pine sprig in there, pull that out, right? Even if you don't get the entire root, it will not come back. So that's a great thing about the hardwood, I mean the evergreens, the pines, the cedars. Even if you can't get the whole root out, if you can at least cut the top, it will not resprout. Hardwoods are a very different story. So my poplars, my maples, my walnuts, my parents have walnut trees, and the squirrels every winter plant a gazillion walnuts. So we're always digging up walnuts out of our flower beds. You've got to get the roots out. If you just cut the top, then they just re-sprout and their roots get even stronger. So you've got to get it out. That is where a hori will come in nice and handy, because you can get down in there and pop the root out. Get them while they're small, because if they get big, you'll be digging to China to get them out. What I wanted to stop and show you, I'm going to prune this white wedding hydrangea. I just planted it in the spring. It is a panicle hydrangea from Southern Living. Southern Living says that it is one of the most shade tolerant panicle hydrangeas. That is why I chose to put it here, because this gets great morning sun. It's in the shade for a lot of the afternoon, but it does get a couple of, maybe an hour or so, and when the sun is setting. It has a little of a slight lean to it. Not sure what that is all about, but I am going to go ahead and clean it up. Now, your panicles, at this point, y'all, it really does not matter. You can, as far as like the exact placement on where you cut it, you can see on the stem, there will be, let's see if I can, let me trim this and then I'll show you an example. You will be able to see where you have your little nodules. Let's see if the camera will, yeah, no, I can't tell if it's clear or not. All right, I can't tell if this is clear or not, but I think hopefully you can see. See these little swells right here, and then up there. If you will cut right above that nodule, if you want to be super precise, cut right above that. That is where your leaves are going to come out. That way, in the spring, when it flushes out, you won't have a lot of dead stem. You'll just have, that is exactly where the two new branches, it'll form two branches right off of there. With your panicle hydrangeas, do not prune them back by any more than half the total size of your plant. That is the absolute most that you want to do. As a general rule, we say a fourth to a third. I am definitely probably going more on the conservative side because this hydrangea is small. I want to encourage really nice, strong, sturdy stems. That's why we don't cut any more than half. Yes, if you cut this down to the ground, will it flush back out in the spring, summertime and rebloom? It will. Now, are you going to have super strong stems? Probably not. So that is why you only want to cut it back by no more, absolute most, 1/2. Again, I know I'm harping on this and I'm repeating myself, but I am trying to make a point here. I go back, especially on a young plant like this, I want all of these stems to get really, really strong. That way, in subsequent years, this is going to be a very strong plant for me. Here comes Sweet Thing with some land and sea for me, because we are going to come through and top dress. Brenda doesn't like that. Actually, it's Andrew. All right, so it was not Sweet Thing in the Bobcat, it was Andrew. So he brought me a thing of land and sea. We're gonna top dress this with land and sea. It is not gonna be super thick. We have amended this bed many times. So we're just gonna come through and do a nice top dress. It will clean everything up. It will look super nice, and it feeds my plants throughout the wintertime. Also notice that, I know some of you are gonna be like, well, why don't you edge the bed? We don't need to edge the bed. Logan, our nephew, has maintained this really nice for us this summer. He comes through every time he mows the grass. He'll take the trimmer and trims it out, so it's nice and neat. I just simply took the existing mulch compost and threw it back up in the bed. So all Andrew and I have to do is just come through and do a nice little top dress of land and sea, and then we're done for today. Cleaning up your perennial bed really is an important task in your garden. Some people choose to do it in the fall, like me. Some people wait to do it in the spring. I think there's probably pros and cons to both of them. For me, I find it is best to do it this time of year. That way, the reason that we do it right is I want to remove any dead foliage so that it doesn't sit in this flower bed all winter long, because it can harbor any kind of a pest that I don't want. I, in this bed especially, deal with snails and slugs in the springtime and the summer, because it is a shade garden, it is more damp, and they will chew my hostas to pieces. If I don't clean up the old debris, remove any leaves, there were not very many leaves in this bed whatsoever. There was just some down in the edge of the bed. But if I were to leave all that debris, that is the perfect place for those snails and slugs, aphids, spider mites, mealybugs, all of that to overwinter and harbor, and I don't want that in my garden. I have got so much natural native area around me that I have got plenty of room for the leaves to decompose and that to be a great area for my beneficial insects. Here in my formal gardens, it needs to be neat and tidy for my sake. This is for my sanity as the gardener living here. And this is your space, right? Your garden is your space. And so if you like, and if you're okay with a garden being, you know, free and flowing, and that's great. Also, if you're in an area where you get a ton of snow in the wintertime, maybe you don't do as much of the cleanup in the fall because the snow comes early, right? and you don't get a chance to do it. There is a benefit, especially when you do have more of a snow. Now, I am not talking about someone who has, I don't have personal experience with snow. This is what I hear about how it benefits the plant because it helps to insulate the crown with all that snow load on top of it. So whatever it is that you do, just know that it's your garden. Enjoy your space. If you like to do a fall cleanup, do a fall cleanup. If you don't like to do a fall cleanup, you want to do it in the spring, do it in the spring, right? There are no gardening police. You can do whatever it is that you need to do what is best for your garden. Today's project is complete, and man, does it look fantastic. It makes me feel fantastic. It is glorious. I know you, my fellow gardeners, understand how it feels to have a project where you've been looking at it all the time because, I mean, my gosh, high traffic area right here. We see this multiple times a day. To have it all nice and neat and tidy and clean does this gardener's heart very good. This time of year especially, I just want things neat and tidy. It does look so much better right than before. All of the perennials have been cut back. They have been trimmed if needed. Right now, your eucharas, your corbels, they're going to be evergreen. They're fine. My holly fern right here, it is green, evergreen. You leave it alone, and you'll deal with that in the springtime when all the new growth flushes out. Of course, you knew I couldn't do it right. I had to go ahead and take out all of the struggling annuals right there. Again, did a little faux planting, y'all, in all 3 of these different areas with the mums. They are not planted. They're still in their pots. I just plopped them down in there. It will suffice. They will be just fine, and it looks so much better, so much cheerier, and yeah, everybody's doing great. Land and Sea is down. Not a huge, like really super thick. We just wanted to come through, top dress everything, make it nice and neat, kind of clean up, hide any kind of, old bark, any kind of roots maybe that were showing, any little bit of some leaves that were hanging out right there, and just getting it neat and tidy, a fresh look. And then of course with the white wedding, all nice and trimmed back. So I literally have nothing to do in this flower bed at all, really. The only thing that I have to do, and I don't even have to do it, but I want to do it, is when it comes time, which again will be maybe end of December, 1st of January, I will come to my hellebore and simply prune back all the way back to the crown of the plant, that old foliage, because new foliage will be popping up, and then we will have tons and tons of buds coming up that will give us beautiful flowers, of course. Fertilizing. I fertilized this bed end of February, 1st of March. Plant tone. I'll just come through basically and just broadcast, and just everybody's going to get that same plant tone. The only one that may get a little something special would be White by the Gate, because it is a camellia, an acidic loving plant. Holly tone. Holly tone is that great slow release fertilizer for your acid loving plants. So your camellias, your gardenias, your hollies, your azaleas, right? So your evergreens really love a lot of times that holly tone. So that's what I'll do. Other than that, she's done. I can go rest, and the bed can rest, the plants can rest, the roots can grow. It'll be great. So get out there, no matter how small the project is, get a little something done, even if it's just pulling one little patch of weeds. Just go for it, get out there, enjoy this time in your garden as we enter into this season of rest. As always, we so appreciate you. You'll have a great day. We'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.